My daughter had not taken a single unaided step in 4 years. Then, in the middle of a crowded rehabilitation gym, Sophie locked her knees, pushed herself out of her wheelchair, and ran. Not walked. Ran. Awkward, trembling, impossible, straight past me and into the arms of a woman I had never seen before. The woman dropped to her knees and caught her, crying as if she had been waiting for that moment her whole life. I stood frozen beside the empty wheelchair, every instinct in me shouting danger while my heart tried to understand the miracle unfolding 10 feet away. Then the woman looked over Sophie's shoulder and said my name. "Grant Mercer, before you take her away, you need to know your wife's crash was not an accident." That sentence split my life open. I had spent 4 years blaming a dead truck driver, rebuilding my company, and teaching my little girl how to live without her legs. Now Sophie was standing. A stranger knew my past, and the brother I trusted most was watching from the doorway with fear on his face. Before I tell you what happened next, like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you trust a stranger who gave your child back the impossible, or demand the truth first? I crossed the gym before the applause had died. The woman was slim, maybe 5'6", with dark hair tied at the nape of her neck and a gray sweater rolled to her elbows. She had the steady hands of someone used to emergencies. One palm rested between Sophie's shoulder blades. The other supported her hip without making the support obvious. "Step away from my daughter," I said. Sophie turned, flushed and breathless. "Dad, wait." The woman did not flinch. "She needs to sit before her left leg fatigues." I said, "Step away." "Grant." Sophie's voice sharpened with the same stubborn note her mother had used whenever I was about to do something stupid and masculine. She helped me. I looked down at my daughter's shoes. Both feet were on the floor. Her knees were shaking, but she was upright. The sight hit me harder than any explosion I had heard overseas. I dropped to one knee. "Soph, can you feel your legs?" "A little, more than before." Her smile trembled. "I wanted to surprise you." The woman guided her back until the wheelchair touched the backs of her knees. Sophie sat carefully, still glowing. I grabbed the chair handles, partly to claim my place and partly because my hands needed something solid. "What is your name?" "Mara Ellison." The last name landed like a steel door slamming shut. Thomas Ellison had been the driver convicted of causing the crash that killed my wife and damaged Sophie's spinal cord. He had died in state prison 18 months after sentencing. I had stood in court and called him a coward. I had watched his daughter sit alone behind him, pale and furious, while I told the judge that no punishment could return what he had taken. The woman in front of me had been that daughter. "You," I said. Her jaw tightened. "Yes." I turned the wheelchair toward the exit. "Dad, we're leaving!" Mara moved in front of us, not touching the chair. Sophie's injury was classified as complete at T11. It was not complete. She has residual motor pathways. Someone altered the original neurological assessment after surgery. I stopped. Behind me, someone dropped a water bottle. The gym had gone quiet enough that I could hear it roll. I looked toward the doorway. My older brother, Owen, stood beside a banner for the Mercer Foundation, which had paid for the new gait training equipment. He wore the Navy suit he used when cameras were present, and the composed expression that had talked banks, grieving families, and city inspectors into trusting him. But he was not looking at Sophie. He was looking at Mara. And for 1 second, before he arranged his face, my brother looked terrified. I had learned in the army that fear rarely pointed at nothing. I wheeled Sophie toward a private therapy room and nodded at Mara. Inside. Both of you. Owen started toward us. Grant, maybe we should slow this down. I held up one hand. Not now. I'm only saying this woman has a history with our family, so do you. That stopped him. The therapy room smelled like rubber mats and antiseptic. I locked the door, positioned Sophie beside the treatment table, and faced Mara. You have 2 minutes before I call the police. Call them, she said. I already gave a statement to Detective Alvarez this morning. That was not the response I expected. Sophie reached for my wrist. Dad, she didn't hurt me. Ms. Mara works with the school program. She's been helping me for 7 months. 7 months? I looked at my daughter. You told me the school sessions were balance training. They were. At first. And then? I moved my right toe. The room tilted. Mara opened a cabinet and removed a tablet. Her school had consent for adaptive physical therapy and sent you progress summaries. The language was conservative because I wanted repeat testing before making a claim. Every session was documented. Every exercise stayed within her orthopedic limits. You hit it, I verified it. You let an 8-year-old keep a medical secret from her father. Mara's face tightened. That was wrong. Sophie asked for 1 week so she could show you at today's demonstration. I agreed to 1 week, not 7 months. Sophie raised her hand like she was in class. That part was me. Despite everything, I almost laughed. I did not. Mara unlocked the tablet. Videos filled the screen. Sophie in parallel bars. Sophie shifting weight. Sophie lifting a knee 1/2 inch. Sophie crying in frustration, then trying again. Dates ran across the bottom. The first clip was from 7 months earlier. My daughter had been fighting her way back to her feet while I spent evenings answering emails and telling myself I was giving her independence. Guilt came fast, but I had no time to indulge it. Why did her doctors miss this? I asked. They may not have. I requested the original trauma notes from St. Catherine's. The records your current physician has are copies generated 48 hours after surgery. In the first handwritten assessment, a resident documented trace motor response in both hip flexors. That line disappeared from the finalized report. Clerical error? Maybe. But the resident's signature was replaced by Dr. Peter Vale's electronic approval. Vale was later paid as a consultant by the Mercer Foundation. I stared at her. You came after my family. I came after the truth. You came through my child. Pain flashed across her face. At first, I requested Sophie's case because of her name. I won't lie about that. Then I met her. I saw a child being treated like her future had already been decided. I stopped investigating during sessions. I focused on helping her. That is supposed to make me trust you? No. Evidence is supposed to make you trust the evidence. She slid a paper folder across the table. Inside were copies of medical records, payment logs, and a photograph of a black sport utility vehicle with front-end damage. I knew the vehicle. Owen had owned one just like it 4 years earlier. The photo had been taken the morning after Natalie's crash. My brother had told me his SUV was in a repair shop because he hit a deer. Mara watched me recognize it. My father said a black SUV forced Natalie's car across the center line, she said. He swerved his truck and still clipped her rear quarter panel. The prosecution claimed he drifted because he was drunk. He was not drunk. The blood sample used at trial was mislabeled. I closed the folder. You have one photograph and a dead man's story. I also have his last letter. Letters are not proof. No. But your wife's voice might be. Sophie looked between us. Mom, Mara's expression softened. I don't have the recording yet. I know where she may have hidden it. My pulse slowed the way it always did before a difficult rescue. Emotion became information. Information became decisions. What do you need? I asked. Access to a storage unit rented under Natalie's maiden name. Owen knocked hard on the door. Grant, open up. I ignored him. Mara continued. My father wrote that, before the crash, Natalie had contacted him about shipments moving through Mercer Response Group. She believed someone inside the company was buying counterfeit rescue equipment and laundering the difference through a shell vendor. My father drove for that vendor. He agreed to meet her. The air left my lungs. 3 months before Natalie died, a young firefighter named Evan Brooks had fallen 6 stories when a supposedly certified anchor failed. Mercer Response Group had supplied the gear. I had blamed myself, replaced the entire inventory, and nearly closed the company. Owen had persuaded me to keep going. I looked at the locked door. Who signed the vendor contracts? Mara asked quietly. Owen had. I opened the door. My brother stood there with 2 foundation attorneys and the director of the rehab center. Everyone out, I said. The director glanced at Mara. Mr. Mercer, Ms. Ellison has been suspended pending review. Sophie's face fell. What? Owen stepped forward. This is exactly why we need to be careful. She concealed a conflict of interest and used Sophie to pursue a personal vendetta. Mara did not defend herself. I moved between her and the attorneys. Did she falsify any therapy records? The director hesitated. Not that we know of. Did she exceed Sophie's medical restrictions? No. Did my daughter improve under her care? Every eye went to the wheelchair. Sophie lifted her chin. I ran. The director exhaled. Yes. I looked at Owen. Then nobody removes her from this building until I have copies of every record. One attorney began, Grant, the board? I own 51% of the foundation's voting control. The board can call me. Owen's eyes narrowed. You are emotional. My daughter just walked for the first time in 4 years. Of course I'm emotional. That does not make me stupid. I turned to Mara. You will not speak to Sophie about the crash without me present. You will not investigate through her. You will give Detective Alvarez everything you have. In return, I will get the storage unit opened legally and make sure no one destroys what is inside. Mara nodded once. Agreed. Owen laughed without humor. You are trusting the daughter of the man who killed Natalie. I met his gaze. I'm trusting no one. Then I held up the photograph of his damaged SUV. But I'm checking everyone. For the first time in my life, my brother had no answer. I took Sophie home that afternoon. Our stone house sat against the foothills west of Colorado Springs, a place Natalie had chosen because the kitchen faced Pikes Peak. After the crash, I had widened doors, lowered counters, built ramps, and treated every obstacle like a structural problem. Mara had shown me that somewhere along the way, caution had hardened into surrender. Sophie wheeled to the kitchen island while I made grilled cheese. Are you mad? Medium mad. I wanted to give you something happy, she said. You always look scared before appointments, even when you smile. The spatula stopped in my hand. I sat beside her. I was afraid Hope would hurt you. That's why I waited until I could show you. Hope is not your job to manage for me. I'm the dad. I carry the heavy part. She studied me. Ms. Mara says strong people still need help carrying things. Ms. Mara says a lot. She likes you. I almost dropped the spatula. Sophie grinned, and for the first time that day, I laughed. Detective Alvarez called before dinner. The storage unit existed. The rent had been paid from an old account under Natalie's maiden name, and Mara had already filed to stop an auction. We could enter at 9 the next morning. Alvarez also confirmed that Thomas Ellison's dash camera had vanished from police impound after a private investigator hired by our company signed in. Owen had hired that investigator for me. After Sophie went to bed, I opened Natalie's case files. Near midnight, Mara arrived carrying Sophie's forearm crutches and a sealed envelope taped beneath one grip. "You cannot come here unannounced," I said. "I know." Sophie found this when she adjusted the handle. My name was written across the envelope in Natalie's handwriting. Inside were a brass key, a receipt for Unit 214, and 3 words on the back. Trust the fall. Years earlier, I had taught rescue trainees that a properly built rope system only worked when they committed their weight to it. Natalie had used the phrase when I hesitated before proposing. It belonged to us. A stone struck the front window. Glass cracked, and a dark contractor pickup roared away from the curb. I pulled Mara behind a porch column, then ran far enough to see a covered plate, a dented passenger door, and an orange light bar identical to the ones on Mercer response trucks. I stopped rather than chase blindly. "You let it go," Mara said when I returned. "I have a daughter upstairs. I choose coming home." Her expression softened. I called Alvarez, then told Mara I was following her to her apartment. "I can take care of myself. I believe you. I'm still following." At her building, she stayed in the car while I stood beside the open window. "Why did your father trust Natalie?" I asked. "Because she believed him before anyone else did." I told her what I had found in the buried crash report. After the first impact, Thomas had turned his truck across the road to shield Natalie's car from oncoming traffic. He may have saved Sophie. Mara closed her eyes. When she opened them, tears shone there. "Thank you." She caught my wrist before I stepped away. "Tomorrow, whatever we find, do not let anger decide before evidence does." "I don't." "You did in court." The truth struck cleanly. I had called her father a coward because I needed someone to hate, and I had never considered the daughter listening behind him. "I did," I said. "I was wrong." The apology could not repair the past, but it laid the first honest board across the distance between us. The next morning, Unit 214 opened with the brass key. Inside were 6 plastic bins, a folding table, 2 framed photographs, and Natalie's red hiking backpack. Dust lay over everything except a narrow track near the back wall. "Someone has been here," Alvarez said. I crouched beside the marks. Within the last week, rubber-soled boots, heavy heel. The property manager checked his log. No authorized entries. Mara moved towards the backpack. Grant. A nylon climbing rope hung from one strap, tied in a compact knot. Trust the fall. I examined it. Figure 8 on a bite. "Is that unusual?" Alvarez asked. "Not by itself." I pulled on the loop. Something hard shifted inside the knot. Natalie had woven a micro-cassette recorder into the rope core. My hands shook as I freed it. The battery was dead, but Alvarez carried evidence bags and a portable reader. 20 minutes later, Natalie's voice filled the storage unit. "If you're hearing this, I either found courage or ran out of time." Sophie's baby laugh sounded faintly in the background. My knees nearly gave out. Natalie continued. "Owen has been purchasing uncertified anchors through Falcon Industrial, then billing cities for approved equipment. Evan Brooks died because one failed. Thomas Ellison brought me copies of the freight manifests. I'm meeting him tonight. If anything happens, Grant needs to know Owen said the company belongs to him, because Grant only knows how to save people, not how to build power." Mara covered her mouth. The recording crackled. Then Owen's voice came through, distant but unmistakable. "You have no idea what you're threatening," Natalie answered. "I know exactly what I'm protecting." A car door slammed. Tires squealed. The recording ended. Silence pressed against the metal walls. Alvarez reached for the device. This is enough to reopen the case, but not enough to prove murder. We need the manifests and chain of custody. Mara scanned the bins. My father said he gave her originals. We searched for 2 hours. We found copies of invoices, photographs of damaged anchors, and notes linking Falcon Industrial to an offshore account. The original freight manifests were missing. At the bottom of the last bin lay a child's stuffed fox, singed along one side. Sophie's fox. I had assumed it burned in the crash. When I lifted it, I felt a rigid rectangle sewn into the belly. Inside was an SD card. Alvarez loaded it into her laptop. The first file showed dash camera footage from Thomas Ellison's truck. Rain streaked the windshield. Natalie's car traveled ahead in the right lane. A black SUV appeared behind it, accelerated, and struck the left rear panel. Natalie spun across the road. Thomas swerved, clipped her car, then angled his truck across both lanes, shielding the wreck from oncoming traffic. The SUV stopped 50 yards ahead. A man stepped out. Even in rain and low resolution, I recognized the way he moved. Owen had broken his right ankle playing football in college. He carried a slight outward turn in that foot. He approached Natalie's car, opened the passenger door, and removed something. Then he saw the truck camera and walked toward it. The image cut to black. Mara whispered. My father told the truth. I felt no triumph, only the cold rearrangement of my world. While Alvarez copied the files, Mara moved behind a row of metal shelves and pressed both hands against her mouth. I followed but stopped far enough away to let her choose the distance. My father died, believing no one would clear his name, she said. The last time I visited, he asked whether I still called myself Ellison. I thought he was afraid I was ashamed of him. Were you? I was ashamed of how tired I was. Every conversation was about appeals, evidence, or money we did not have. Once, I wished he would stop asking me to fight. He died 2 days later. Grief has a cruel habit of turning exhaustion into guilt. You were his daughter, I said, not his lawyer, not his investigator. I became both. And it nearly cost you your career. She looked at me. Would you have stopped if it were Sophie? No. That is what I told myself. It is also how people justify crossing lines, I know. Her honesty made anger harder and trust more dangerous. I took the stuffed fox from the evidence table. The singed fabric smelled faintly of dust and smoke even after 4 years. In court, I said your father ran from responsibility. You did. He carried my daughter out of a burning car. Yes, I cannot take those words back. No, I expected accusation. She offered none. What do you want from me? I asked. The truth in public, whatever it is, even if it proves your father made another mistake? Her chin lifted, especially then. That answer mattered more than any promise that she was innocent. My phone buzzed with a video call from Sophie. When I answered, she was in our kitchen with my neighbor, braces fastened over her jeans. Look, she said. Before I could protest, she locked the wheels of her chair, pushed upright, and took 3 careful steps along the counter. My chest tightened. Slow down. I am slow. Both hands on the counter. Dad. Both. Mara stood beside me, smiling despite the tears still on her face. Sophie saw her on screen. Miss Mara, did you find Mom's surprise? We found something important. Are you coming over later? Mara's smile faded. I don't know. Sophie looked at me. Why not? Because adults made mistakes, and we have to deal with them honestly. That sounds like no. It sounds like not yet. After the call ended, Mara said, "You did not promise her I would return. I don't make promises before I know I can keep them. And yet you opened this unit with me. I promised to check everyone." "Still checking?" "Yes." She stepped closer. "What have you found? That you are reckless, stubborn, professionally compromised, and very good with my daughter. One compliment buried under 3 indictments. I'm not finished." I met her eyes. "You also handed the police evidence that could hurt you, and when Sophie asked whether you were coming back, you did not use her feelings to pressure me." The space between us narrowed. Mara's gaze dropped to my mouth, then returned to my eyes. "That is not enough for trust." "No." "Or forgiveness." "No." "But it is something." Before I could answer, Alvarez returned, holding her phone. "The warrant request is moving. We need to secure everything now." A moment later, my own phone rang. "Owen." Alvarez made copies and called for a warrant. My phone rang before she finished. "Owen," I answered on speaker. "Grant," he said, calm as ever. "The board is meeting in 30 minutes. There are concerns about your judgment and unauthorized access to Foundation records." I looked at the frozen frame of him beside Natalie's car. "I'll be there," I said. Mara grabbed my arm after I hung up. "That is a trap, probably." "Then don't go." "I'm going because he expects me to come angry and alone." "You are angry." "Yes." I looked at Alvarez. "But I won't be alone." The board met at Mercer Response Group headquarters, a converted aircraft hangar near the municipal airport. I had built the company after leaving the Army with 2 borrowed trucks and my severance pay. Owen had made it profitable. I saved people. He built systems. That was the story we had always told. Alvarez positioned officers outside while she waited for the warrant. Mara and Sophie remained in the lobby. Owen sat at the head of the conference table. "You're late. I stopped to watch a video of you causing my wife's crash." I placed a printed frame in front of him. "You rammed Natalie's car, removed evidence, and framed Thomas Ellison." His expression barely moved. "A corrupted video and the word of a therapist who targeted your child?" The door opened. Mara stood there with Sophie. Owen looked pleased. "Tell him, Ms. Ellison, you requested Sophie's case before you were assigned. You used another clinician's credentials to reach sealed records. You thought physical recovery might bring back her memory." I turned to Mara. "Is that true?" "Yes." She did not hide. "I wanted information." During our first session, Sophie panicked when I mentioned the crash. I never asked again. I reported myself to the ethics board and gave Detective Alvarez every note. Sophie's eyes filled. "Did you help me because of your dad?" "At first I noticed you because of him," Mara said, kneeling. "I helped you because you are you, but you deserved the truth sooner." My anger hit hard. Owen had used a real wrong to poison a greater truth. "Mara, take Sophie home," I said. "Grant, now." Mara rose. "I'll resign from her case today." I hated the pain in Sophie's face, but I could not settle a professional betrayal in the middle of a criminal confrontation. When they left, I faced Owen. "Did you alter Sophie's medical report?" "I made sure she received realistic care." He smiled when my fists tightened. He wanted me to hit him, to prove grief had made me unstable. So I pulled out a chair and sat. Explain realistic. Vanity opened the door, anger could not. Owen leaned forward. After the Brooks fall, the company was weeks from failure. Cities would have canceled contracts. Hundreds of people would have lost jobs. I contained one defective shipment. "You bought counterfeit anchors. I kept your dream alive. You killed a firefighter. 1 unit failed. Do you know how many lives we saved afterward?" My phone lay face down. transmitting to Alvarez. And Natalie. She was going to destroy everything because she could not see beyond her own righteousness. You rammed her car. I tried to stop her. The admission settled between us. Alvarez entered with 2 detectives. Owen Mercer, stand up. He looked at me in disbelief. You planned this. I prepared for it. As Alvarez cuffed him, he warned that the manifests were gone, Dr. Vale would deny everything, and Mara's misconduct would ruin our case. I let him talk until the doors closed. Only then did I drive my fist through a framed glass panel. The safety glass held together, exactly as I had designed it. I had beaten Owen at his own game, and I felt no victory. At home, Mara was gone. On the kitchen table lay her resignation, her ethics disclosure, and a flash drive. Her note said she had entered our lives with a question instead of the truth, that Sophie's next therapist had the full program, and that I must not let Mara's mistake make me take hope away from my daughter. Sophie rolled into the kitchen. Did Uncle Owen hurt Mom? Yes. Did Ms. Mara lie? Yes. Did she help me walk? Yes. She frowned. I hate when 2 things are true. So do I. Then she told me what she remembered. Before the crash, Natalie had said on the phone, I have the manifests. The black SUV struck them. Owen opened Sophie's door, took the stuffed fox, and told her she would not remember. Thomas Ellison pulled her from the smoking car. The first time Ms. Mara made me stand, my legs shook like the car, Sophie said. That's when I remembered. She never asked me again. Why didn't you tell me? Your heart already looked broken. I knelt and took her hands. You never protect me from the truth. That is my job. You can't protect me from everything. No. But I can stand beside you when it comes. The flash drive confirmed Mara's confession to the ethics board. Her session videos showed that after Sophie's panic, she never mentioned the crash again. The final file was a message from Thomas recorded before his death. If Grant Mercer hears this, tell him I do not blame him. A man in pain swings at the nearest shadow. Tell him his wife was brave. Tell him his little girl pushed her foot against my arm when I carried her. They are wrong about her. She is still in there. Thomas had known Sophie's injury was incomplete before any specialist admitted it. I understood then that Mara had crossed a line, but she had also drawn one afterward and held it when no one was watching. Forgiveness would not erase what she had done. It could begin with seeing the whole truth. My phone rang at 11. Alvarez. Owen made bail, she said. I stood. How? His attorney challenged the arrest timeline. The judge imposed electronic monitoring and surrendered passport, but he is out until arraignment. Where is Mara? We tried to reach her. Her phone is off. A cold certainty moved through me. I checked the security app. One of my company access badges had been used 20 minutes earlier at Hangar 6, an old equipment warehouse scheduled for demolition. The badge belonged to Owen. Hangar 6 stored archived paper files, including vendor manifests. I called Mara again. Voicemail. Then a message appeared from her number. I found the originals. Hangar 6. Do not come alone. The timestamp was 12 minutes old. I placed Sophie with my retired police captain neighbor, called Alvarez, and drove to Hangar 6 with my emergency beacon on. I did not race blindly. I used the 20-minute drive to plan. The warehouse was a pre-war steel shell with a wood mezzanine, limited exits, and a west truss already weakened by snow load. If Owen meant to destroy the originals, he would use fire. Heat would bring the roof down first. Smoke rose above the airport when I arrived. Fire units were still minutes away. I pulled on the rescue gear behind my seat and clipped on a respirator. Alvarez skidded in behind me. You wait for fire, she ordered. The west truss will fail in under 5 minutes. You do not know Mara is inside. A woman screamed from the hangar. Now we know. I entered through the east service door, staying low beneath black smoke. Flames climbed stacked boxes beneath the mezzanine. Mara was above, one wrist zip-tied to a steel post. Owen stood beside her with a metal cash box. He has the manifests, she shouted. Owen raised the box. Without these, all you have is a corrupted video and a grieving therapist's story. The roof groaned. I measured the room the way I would a collapse site. 22 feet to the mezzanine. Maintenance ladder north. Wind pushing smoke east. Central stairs blocked. 3 minutes. Throw down the box, I said. We leave together. He laughed. You still think everyone wants saving? I do not care what you want. I'm not letting you die with my wife's name in your mouth. You would save me? I would save a stranger. You get no special treatment. He kicked a burning crate over the rail. It crashed between us. The west truss snapped, and part of the roof dropped. The mezzanine lurched. Mara's post tore loose, throwing her over the railing. Her zip tie caught on twisted metal, leaving her hanging above the floor. I ran beneath her. Look at me, she did. Trust the fall. I clipped my rope to a floor anchor, fed it through a descender, and threw her a loop. She locked her free arm through it. I climbed the maintenance ladder, crossed the shaking beam, and cut the tie. Her weight struck the rope, and Alvarez guided her down with a firefighter who had just entered. The platform tilted again. Owen lunged for the ladder. The cash box fell open, scattering papers into the heat. He dove after them. I grabbed his jacket. Let go! The building is coming down. The manifests are my life. That was the difference between us. He believed power was what remained after people were sacrificed. I believed nothing you built mattered if you abandoned the person in front of you. A burning beam blocked the ladder. I clipped my secondary line around his chest. What are you doing? He shouted. Saving you despite your best effort. I pushed him over the rail into the belay line. Firefighters lowered him. I followed as the west half of the mezzanine collapsed. We crawled through the east door seconds before the roof came down. Outside, paramedics took Owen. Firefighters recovered scorched manifests and a fireproof pouch from the rubble, enough originals to prove the fraud. Mara sat on an ambulance bumper with oxygen under her nose and a bandage around her wrist. I walked to her. You came alone, she said. I called the police. You entered before the fire department. The structure had a known failure window. That is not an apology. No. I put the oxygen mask back over her face. Breathe. After 3 breaths, she admitted Owen had lured her with a message from Alvarez's number. She knew it might be a trap, but hoped to record him. Then she pulled a tiny recorder from her pocket. Even exhausted, I laughed. You are impossible. So are you. The laughter faded. I was wrong to use Sophie's case, she said. I'll accept whatever the licensing board decides. I'll stay away from both of you. No. Her eyes lifted. You will stay away from treating Sophie until the board clears you. That is a professional boundary. You will not disappear because you think leaving is penance. You do not owe me forgiveness because I helped her walk. I'm not offering forgiveness as payment. I touched the bandage around her wrist. I'm considering it because you told the truth when lying would have protected you, surrendered your career before you surrendered Sophie's future, and never used my feelings to excuse your choices. I understand if you do not trust me. I don't. Not completely. I stepped closer, but I want to. Her mouth trembled. I also want you in my life for reasons that have nothing to do with therapy, evidence, or the past. When I heard you scream in that building, I knew I was not only afraid Sophie would lose you, I was afraid I would. She leaned into my hand when I touched her cheek. "Do not kiss me because we survived a fire," she whispered. "I'm kissing you because we are done letting dead people carry words meant for the living." This time she smiled. "That is better." I kissed her gently under the ambulance lights. It was not a promise that trust had repaired itself. It was a beginning chosen with our eyes open. Owen's case took 9 months. The surviving manifests tied him to Falcon Industrial. Dr. Vale admitted altering Sophie's final neurological report after Owen threatened him. The impound contractor confessed to removing Thomas's dash camera for cash. Owen pleaded guilty to vehicular manslaughter, evidence tampering, fraud, and reckless endangerment. Thomas Ellison was exonerated posthumously. On the courthouse steps, Mara finally cried, and I held her without trying to speak for her. The therapy board suspended her for 6 months and required supervised practice. She accepted every condition. After reinstatement, she joined a veterans rehabilitation hospital and never returned as Sophie's therapist. Sophie continued with a new clinician using Mara's program. Recovery was not a straight line. She used her wheelchair for distance, braces for walking, and stubbornness for everything else. I stopped treating the chair as defeat or every step as proof of victory. The victory was choice. I changed the company too. Mercer Response Group became Mercer Rescue Cooperative. Employees received voting shares, vendor contracts faced independent review, and we created funds in Thomas's and Natalie's names. A year after the day in the gym, Brightpath hosted an adaptive charity race. Sophie entered the final 50-yard walking division. I stood beside Mara at the finish line, gripping Sophie's wheelchair. "Your knuckles are white," Mara said. "What if she falls?" She slipped her hand into mine. "Then she falls toward people who love her." The whistle blew. Sophie moved between 2 volunteers, braces visible beneath purple leggings. At 20 yards, her left knee buckled. She caught herself on a crutch. I started forward. "Wait," Mara said. Every instinct in me rebelled, but Sophie reset her feet and continued. At 40 yards, the crowd chanted her name. She looked up, saw us, and dropped the crutches. For one terrifying second, I thought her legs had failed. Instead, she ran. 5 uneven, determined steps carried her into Mara's arms. This time, I did not freeze. I ran too and wrapped them both against me. "Dad, you're crushing me," Sophie laughed. "I'm carrying the heavy part. You're making it heavier." I looked at Mara over Sophie's head. "There is one more thing." The ring in my coat was silver with a narrow inlay cut from the brass key to Unit 214. Inside, I had engraved Natalie's words, "Trust the fall." I did not kneel. Sophie was already holding both of us, and I wanted the moment to be what it was, a family standing together. "Mara, you came into my life carrying a truth I did not want and gave my daughter a future I was afraid to imagine. You challenged me, angered me, and loved Sophie without claiming her courage. I do not need you to complete us. We are whole. I am asking you to choose us because I want every ordinary day after the impossible ones to include you." Sophie whispered loudly. "Say yes. My legs are tired." Mara laughed through tears. "Yes, but only if we tell the truth before it becomes a rescue operation." Agreed. I slid the ring onto her finger. Sophie sagged between us, and I lifted her while Mara gathered the crutches. We crossed the finish line together. That evening, we sat on the back porch facing Pikes Peak. Sophie's wheelchair rested inside beside her purple shoes, and the stuffed fox repaired with a bright red seam. None of them meant defeat. They meant survival, adaptation, and truth recovered piece by piece. The first time Sophie ran into Mara's arms, I saw a stranger stealing my certainty. The second time, I saw the woman I loved waiting where my daughter had chosen to go. I finally understood Natalie's words. Trusting the fall was not believing you could never be hurt. It was building something strong enough to hold the truth, then having the courage to place your full weight on it. If this story stayed with you, like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who knows that strength is not refusing help. It is choosing truth, protecting the people you love, and leaving room for hope after life gives you every reason not to.